Hello there, it's that time again where we bring you your favorite program, Joshua Generation. As promised earlier, this is the part 2 of the interview with Dr. Innocent Kasarachi, and you don't want to miss out on this inspiring moment. You are welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
You know, in part 1 of this episode, it was so inspiring. We got a lot of testimonies on our social media. So, sir, what do you have to say about your life? Has it changed in any way after the Joshua Generation International Youth Conference?
The Joshua Generation International Youth Conference was like a watershed, you know, for me and for the youths. I almost didn't go for that program. Let me just confess a little here. I struggled to accept that invitation because I wasn't feeling too fine. But I thank God I never missed that program. First of all, that was the same university where I was almost destroyed. So it's like coming back to where you were mocked. Yes, coming back to where you were mocked. So it was symbolic for me. Then two, before that Joshua Generation program, I had been speaking to youth, but I've never spoken to that number of youths. So when I climbed there, it was massive. 3, after that program, I've got business openings. I don't want to mention them, but I've got business openings by virtue of people who watched that program. I've got invitations to speak and to consult for companies because of that program. I've got calls from almost all the countries of the world because of that program. That video went viral all over the place. And since after that program, I've got platforms I work for now, you know, because of that. In fact, that program revolutionized everything. People knew me, but after that program, it's been massive, you know. And then I've got testimonies from young people who attended and whose lives have been changed. My dear, Joshua Generation marked the change in my life as a person. It's like going back to rain. Finally, I've arrived by God's grace. 2, it marked a newness. It opened doors for me to government houses. You can believe that. And 3, it made me see God from a different platform. And that is, if God gives you a task to do, do it. Because you never know which of the days the blessing will come. I had been speaking before that day, and I almost didn't go for that particular day. It took Bishop Abo of Nsukka Diocese, our beloved dear father in God, the primate, and my wife to persuade me to go for that program. And if I didn't go for that program, I would have regretted it the rest of my life. So Joshua Generation, I think it was done for me. It was planned for me. And I thank God I thank God and I thank our primate and every brain behind that program. That program, in fact, I have got calls from people who say, look, this program, the next one is not an Anglican thing anymore. No, it's not. We are coming for that program. And it was one program that changed everything about me. From April till now, I've never rested. It's been one program after the other. And you know what people do right now? They invite me for programs and I say, I don't have time. They say, no, we'll fix the program when you have time. And that's Joshua Generation for you. Yeah. So the fire is on. I can't forget Joshua Generation. It was the point of departure, you know, for me.
So you would like to come back to be there at the next
I'm coming invited, uninvited.
You'll be there.
Disinvited, whatever it is. I'm not even coming as a guest because I'm also coming to listen. You know, you gain a whole lot. You see young people, you interact with them. Anybody who misses that program is joking. I'm going to come 1 week before the program.
Did you hear that? Make sure you do.
I'm going to come 1 week before the program. I'll be there.
Please, I'll follow you there.
I'll be there. No, I can't. No, I can't. Miss what? Me? No, I don't know about him. I'm coming.
Okay, so Daddy, what will you do different there at the next program?
If I come for the program?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Usually I'm given a slot. The last one, I handled one of the morning devotions, meditations. That was what I did. What I would do this time, if I come in, I'm going to liaise with our father, Dr. Abu, Bishop Abu, and we're going to discuss. I want to have interactions, direct interactions with the youths, maybe in panels, you know, interactivity now, discuss with them, one-on-one now, all right, apart from that bigger stage. Yes, counseling, and then interactions and the rest of them. I think that's my target this time, because for me, when we have such programs, my target is not a crowd. My target is one soul, just one person. So one person you talk. I remember the day my student came into my office with a sniper. She wanted to take her life. She had a suicide note in her hand. And then she came into my office. I asked her what, she told me a very gory story. I don't want to repeat it here. It was horrible. She lost all members of her family in one day. And she told me, I'm going to take my life. And I had to excuse everybody from the office. And I spoke to her for hours. She was crying, I was crying. At the end of the day, she poured that sniper away, tore that paper, and hugged me, held me tight, and cried for hours. Was holding me and saying, sir, I came to this university just because of you. So for me, going to be a lecturer is not for the crowd. That girl alone that God saved through me is enough for me. So for me, Joshua Generation is not a jamboree. It's not a crowd. If I get one person to change his mindset, forget the background, rise from the floor, take up the fire, and face life, then that's okay for me. So I'll be there. If me, Joshua Generation, don't worry now. You'll see what will happen.
So, sir, I heard you say somewhere, don't let anyone define you. Define yourself.
Yes.
Can you tell us more on that?
Well, that expression or that mindset came from when I was smaller. During Christmas, my mom would always buy us those rubber eyeglass. And then some of them were blue, some were green, and all that. Now, when we wore them, you discover that the whole environment will take the color of that eyeglass, right? If it's green, you discover that everything will become green, okay? And then the normal flat ground will now become as if it's a valley. You'll be afraid of walking. When you remove it, you discover everything is normal. So I learned from that when people speak about you, they're not talking about you. They're speaking from what they see with their own eyes, not you. So somebody sees you and say, this nonsense girl that didn't go to school, you won't become anything. Now, in their eyes, anybody who doesn't go to school will never become anything. But that's not you. So they say, you this useless, stupid girl. But you know you're not stupid. So, while growing up, I heard people call me names. And young people also go through that today. So a teacher comes and says, you block-headed fool. You don't know anything. And then you go home and say, the teacher said, I don't know anything. Oh God, I don't know anything. You are letting someone define you. That's a negative thing. You know who you are on the inside. So people's words, in fact, that statement simply has to do with people's words. See, everybody has the right to use his mouth the way he wants to do. You have the right to perceive it the way you want to perceive it. So, for instance, somebody met me at the airport one day. I don't know where he came from, but he was wearing an airport reflector. And then I was rushing to Abuja here to speak at a conference. And as I was just walking, he just came to me. I was waiting. The crowd was too much. I couldn't stand. So I was waiting somewhere. He just came to me and said, excuse me. I said, yes. He said, sorry, don't be offended. I said, yes. He said, we don't allow beggars around here. Because I had a stick and I was carrying a bag and I was wearing a sandal and something. So he felt so I just smiled to him and said, I've heard. Some people will flare up. You called me a beggar. But you know you're not a beggar. So why are you arguing? You don't live your life based on people's words. That's just the point of that argument. Don't live your life. You know who you are. You don't need someone to tell you who you are. So they say anything, you're not good at this, you're not good at that. Let me say this to you. Anybody who has ever become anything has been talked down. Any great idea that has made waves has been mocked. In fact, no idea succeeds until somebody has said it's useless. So my point is, you don't let what people say or do to you define you. So somebody says he wants to marry you, and then he disappoints you, and then you lock in. You don't want to give room to any relationship anymore. Even when you get into a relationship, you're treating the person based on what the other person did to you. No, you don't do that. You live your life. Since you don't live anybody's life for him, don't let anybody's comment or actions affect you. If what anybody says or does to you can change who you are, then you didn't know who you are from the beginning. So, what they see is their perception, not you.
Wow, that's good. So, sir, what advice do you have for parents, governments, institutions, most especially the church, in serving as a formidable support structure to the youth, most especially the physically challenged persons?
Well, let me say this. I've said this from the beginning. The society is not doing enough. One, for the youths. Two, for the physically challenged. Let me start from the youth. It's so terrible that the society is a bad example to the youth today. How do I mean? The current society glamorizes wealth without source. So, traditional rulers will get somebody because he has made money, so they give him a title, they project him, so the youths look at them and say, wow. So, what matters is money, not principles. The same society will despise a youth who is struggling. Look at the Nigerian society. What happens? Somebody carries a gun, commits atrocities, he is forgiven, given amnesty, sent abroad to be trained. Then the normal youth who graduated, who has never done violence, will stay without a job. The society is doing badly towards the youths. I must tell you the truth. What about organizations? A young person comes out of school at the age of 23, 24, after all the strike. Then he applies for a job. And the company say to him, you must not be more than 23 years old. And you must have 24 years working experience. Where will the youth get this from? Where will the youth get this from? This person just came out of school. You set the limit for his age, then you ask him for working experience. Who will employ him to get the working experience? Then, you see politicians who exploit the youth. I was in Cross River, somewhere in Cross River some months ago, to speak to repentant cultists. And while we were there, politicians came to disperse it. They were angry. They said we were taking their boys, because when these boys stop cultism, they will not have anybody to run errands for them anymore. So you see, even our leaders are to blame for the state of the youth. I'm not saying all the blame. So the society should change. Then you see a society that rewards madness, that rewards lack of good morals instead of wisdom and attitude. What about the shows going on, BB Niger and the rest of them? People get there and they get paid for doing horrible things, and then a student graduates with a first class, almost 5.0, and is given 10,000 naira as the best graduating student. Our what do I call it now? Our ethics are wrong. The church too is not helping. The youth come to church. Wonderful. The church needs to help their own youth. How can we have government officials in the church, traditional rulers, people in government offices, and yet the youth will be looking for somebody outside to give them job? I mean, how? The youth, I have you as my brother. If I'm qualified, why won't you give me a position to work for, to earn a living? But our big men in the church will rather give this to people. And then when the youth leave the church tomorrow, you start talking that they are leaving the church. Why won't they leave? Everybody wants to survive. Empowerment from the church. Nothing is wrong with it. Nothing is wrong with it. I could connect you and say, oh, I have my sister. Oh, yeah, come and work here. There's nothing wrong with it. Now, for the youth themselves, they should know. I've always said this. You don't let your background keep your back on the ground. You don't let your background keep your back on the ground. The truth of the matter is, that thing you were complaining about, your family, maybe your family is poor, you're coming from whatever thing you don't like about your family, that's the reason you were created into that family. So you could change it. So you were brought in so that in your time, the story can change. You don't let what swallowed the last generation to swallow you. Then for the people with physical challenges, I have a whole lot of problem with that. The government is not fair. And it starts from the hospitals. Let's start from there, the health system. A young lady got impregnated out of wedlock once, and then I saw her, the parents threw her out. I saw her with heavy pregnancy. I said to her, what's happened? She explained. I said, have you gone to the hospital for a check? She said she doesn't have money. I said, okay, go to that health center. It's government health center, so they will attend to you for free. She went there and came back crying. Said they didn't attend to her. I said, what happened? Said she got there, The nurses and the midwives, they are told, I say, well, this is a government hospital, you're not going to pay. But we don't have money to buy hand glove. And we don't have money to buy pen to register you. We don't have money to buy water to wash our hands. Everything is 5,000 naira. And the girl didn't have it. You have been paid as a government health officer. But you will readily send a pregnant lady away because she can't pay. And by sending that lady away, you are creating avenue for deformity for a child in the womb. Because there could be malformation. There's no attention. So you're making millions to kill millions. You're killing millions to make millions. The truth is, those of them working in government hospitals, have they ever experienced disability? That you are odd from the beginning? That people laugh at you when you walk on the road? That you are meant to live your life in pain and suffering? I know what it takes me to walk with this stick. To walk from here downstairs, I know the pressure on my shoulders and on my waist and on my leg. And then somebody doesn't care. What we talk about is money. Some of these issues of disability could be avoided if Nigerians who work in the health sector, who are policymakers, can have a rethink. And then when these children are born, government should see them as their own. Public buildings everywhere. How many of them have access? You go to the bank. How many times have you seen a person on a wheelchair inside a bank hall? The security door doesn't allow, is built not to allow the person with a wheelchair to enter. So right from beginning, he's even disenfranchised from going to bank to put his own money. I have a friend of mine, a youth corps member who was sent to Lagos, NNPC Towers, 17th floor. The lift was not working. How would he go up there to do his service? What about marriage? Even those who claim to be children of God don't want anybody. I know the shame I went through before I married. I know women and men of God who describe me in unprintable words. Like, why should I even think of getting married? So the society is strictly against the physically challenged, even the visually impaired. You can see in a situation how many schools in Nigeria are offering law, engineering, mass communication to people with visual impairment. There's no equipment. So because there's no equipment, they're not even allowed to go to school from the beginning. My heart is on fire. I am talking today because God has raised me. What about the Kasarachis that are there? Nobody's speaking for them. What about them? What would they do? How would they survive? Yet we move on. The Nigerian society needs to have a rethink. The fact that a man has a problem with his hand doesn't make him useless. The fact that a man cannot see well doesn't make him useless. Let the society of Nigeria stop equating the container with the content. What disability does is that it affects the container, but it doesn't affect the content. If nobody took an interest in me and helped me, I would have been a beggar by now. Right now, I teach in the university. I'm contributing to the development of society. To my brothers out there who are physically challenged, visually impaired, one challenge or the other, one thing is certain. If you work on your mindset, there are no physical mountains. All the mountains are in the mind. I know what it took me. If you look at my palms are rough. I know how many times I fell down, wounded myself. I know the pain in my body, but I just had to keep going. Whatever I will do to stop being a beggar, I will do it. They should also take that mindset. Because sometimes too, the government provides things for them and they're all they want is handouts. That mentality is wrong. Anybody can rise from anywhere. The container can be dented, but God has secured the content.
Wow. So, sir, we'll talk on how these wrongs can be corrected when we come back from the break.
Thank you.
Viewers, I believe you're enjoying this show, but for now, we shall be going on a short break. When we return, we shall continue from where we stopped. Please stay tuned. Welcome back, viewers, and in case you're just joining us, this is still the Joshua Generation program, reaching you from the Advent Cable Network, Nigeria. Still with us in the studio is Dr. Kasarachi Innocent. You're welcome back, sir.
Thank you so much.
So, sir, we want to know what can be done, what the governments, institutions, parents, and churches can do to correct all these wrongs.
Okay, let's take them one after the other. Okay. Let's start from the government. There is a law called the Nigerian Disability Act. There's a law. I'm sure you're not aware.
I'm just hearing.
Fine, I'm sure you're not aware. There's a law. That law specifies certain things concerning people with physical challenges, disabilities.
Things like
every public or government building should have a ramp. The ramp is the thing, it's built beside the staircase to help you roll up wheelchairs for those who can't use the staircase. There is a provision for equality in employment status. In other words, if the person is qualified by intellect, he should be employed and not be disqualified by the physical condition. There are so many things concerning that law. How many of them are being implemented? Let's start from the beginning. Before we talk about privately owned institutions and organizations, what about government buildings? What about government buildings? The ministries, the parastatals, the agencies, how many of them, from the conception of the idea to build, do we remember that there are people who are physically challenged who can use such structures, and then factor in the ramps and other things that will be germane to them, to their using it? It's not there. 2, equality in educational opportunities. How many? I have a lady who wanted to study law. She was visually impaired. We discovered it was only University of Jos that could take her, but she was in Port Harcourt. Who will take her to University of Jos? But the government is talking. Education for all. For all? What about those? So the government should take a lead. It is not about making the law. What about the enforcement? Can I ask a question? Of all the ministers in Nigeria today, how many of them have physical challenges? None. I'm not aware of any. In all the governments, state governments, how many physically challenged people are there? As commissioners, as advisors, how many? You come to even the media. I did a study some time ago. I asked myself, why is it that young children, when they see somebody who is visually impaired or physically challenged, they shock? Why? The reason is simple. These children watch cartoons, and all the cartoon characters, none of them are physically challenged. So from the onset, their mindset is that a normal human being shouldn't be challenged. So when they now come into the real world, and they shock. Up till now, kids see me and scream. I remember once I traveled to Lagos all night by road, and then I got there and I went to buy toothpaste by the side, and I met a little girl, a Yoruba girl in the shop, and I said, sorry, I want to buy something. She came out and started screaming, help, madman, because I was holding a stick. Because you don't blame this child. The media. Okay, what about the media? How many times does the media even feature issues concerning the physically challenged? How many? It's not there. Let me say this to you. You may not know. The government-owned media, like NTA and all the radio stations, FRCN, there's a policy that in their programming, 1 hour should be reserved to discuss issues of people with special needs. But because nobody knows, the general managers in these organizations sell those times out. What are we talking about? How many people know about the law? Implementation, the media is silent. So the media needs to look at their programming again, and then honesty, and then thinking as if we are humans. Then let's come to families, because that's where it is. Families. One of the greatest things at the back of my mind is the love of my family for me. Yes. My mom was so proud of me. And why would you, as a parent, despise a gift God has given to you? The Bible says, children are gifts from the Lord. It might not be what you want, but the truth is this. There is somebody who wants what you have. Again, you as a parent might not be physically challenged, might not have special needs, but you are not all around perfect. There's still something wrong with you. And if God would treat you the way you treat those children, you won't survive. Then 3, you discover that where you build that mentality, the home is like a sanctuary. If anything happens to anybody, he runs to his home. I remember when I was small, when people mock me, I would just start crying, I would start running home. Because I know right there at home, I'm going to be received and my tears cleaned. Now, if the child now gets attacked in the home, where will the child run to? So you discover that families destroy the psyche of the child. Some families even use their children who have special needs as a source of income for the family to go and beg. They buy plates for them, buy walking stick, buy something. They'll carry them in the morning and drop them to beg. When they come back, they make returns to the family. How can? Some families think that children with special needs shouldn't go to school at all. What are they going there to do? What are they going there to do? So the family needs to change our orientation. You know why? Nobody knows the pregnancy that will give birth to a king. This child might not be okay right now, but you never can tell. Because God in heaven does not create a useless thing. Even a clock that has stopped working is correct at least once in a day. If a clock has stopped working and the hour meeting at 12, if a clock that's not working can be correct, a child who has special needs is not useless. It can be correct one way or the other. The church itself, the people who have physical challenges are part of the souls that Jesus died for. The people who have special needs are part of the souls that Jesus went to the cross for. So if the church truly claims to love the Lord, then they should love those who he created. The discrimination in the church is horrible. They can put up some form of advocacy. They can set up a Sunday where people with special needs can be asked to, like you have AYF, ACM. They can have a Sunday. They say, okay, today is for people with special needs to come and showcase. Let them preach. You build that self-belief. I always run to the church when I was smaller because I felt that is where there's no discrimination. God loves me the way I am. But if the discrimination that starts from the church, what happens? How can a pastor's wife, how can a pastor tell the daughter, I'm going to curse you if you marry that man whose leg is not good? What example are you setting? Have you ever asked, is it the will of God? So the church, the society, everybody has a role to play. And I think this is the way we can maximize the people whose containers are dented, but whose contacts are intact.
Okay, sir. So let's have your last words to the youth watching now.
All right. Very simple. Don't let your background keep your back on the ground. Don't let your background put your back on the ground. Any man can rise from any situation as long as he gives it a try. For me, failure is not the man who tried and failed, but the man who never tried at all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much.
I love this episode. Thank you so much for coming.
It's been nice
to have you again.
It's been nice speaking with you. God willing, I will come.
We'll meet at Joshua Generation.
Oh my God. I'll welcome you. I'll be there to welcome you before you come.
Right. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much. All right.
Youth out there, you have absolutely no excuse why you shouldn't succeed in life. You've heard it all from Dr. Kasarashi and so. Go out there and make God and the world proud. Till we come your way again, be inspired. I am Nyinrot Josiah, and I love you all.
Generation.